What's up, guys? Racking the Wood if you're here, and I just want to give you a really big thanks to all of you for getting me to 500. It's actually really insane. Didn't think I'd hit it so fast. But as you can see by the start of the video, this is about an edit court. Now, someone gave me, a suggestion, gave me this. I forgot who it was, but I know it was like a PR something. My bad for forgetting who you were, but I'd like to thank you. So it's an edit court. Now, this is going to be a one-shot for my 500 sub special. Now, let's get straight into it. As we get into it, we see a green-haired lady being carried off to an emergency room. Now, she's giving birth, but being that the fact she has a weak telekinesis quirk, to be in fact, her husband decides not to stick around and leaves. Now, as the baby is born, it is a male, and she decides to name said kid Izuku Midoriya. Now, later on in this kid's life, later on in Inko Midoriya's life, she noticed that her quirk is way stronger now. She used to be able to move things towards her. Now she can move things away, pick them up, a whole bunch of other things. She's confused. Now, whenever Izuku is 2 years old, he meets... how should I do that? He meets a blonde-haired girl. Now, of course, this being Kasuga Bakugo. And they're best friends. Entirely. Now, without Deku's knowledge, he's been editing people's quirks. Like, if he accidentally bumped into them, he would edit them and make them even stronger. So, whenever Bakugo turns 4, Kasuga turns 4, my bad, she gets her explosion quirk as canon. Now, because before this, I'm gonna say Deku's like a week younger than her. So, during this week, her quirk is getting immensely stronger. Because they're always with each other. So, around the age of 4, she's already half as strong as she is in Canon Season 4. So, I mean, like, the movie Bakugo, or the movie Kasuga, that type strong already. Yes, I am making her extremely overpowered. And just an add-in, I'm going to say Deku can edit his own quirk. So, unbeknownst to Deku, he's been doing all this by accident. So, whenever he turns 4 and he gets his quirk assessment test, he finds out he has a quirk. And this quirk, of course, an edit quirk. And as Deku's confused, he asks, what's an edit quirk? And the doctor goes to an explanation saying, oh, it's a really, really, really powerful quirk. One that I've never seen before. In fact, it's so powerful you can literally make people quirkless. Not only that, you can modify them and make them even stronger. So Deku's happy and excited. But then the doctor says that it's also extremely dangerous. And that he needs extreme amounts of training to actually master this power. So that smile goes into like a small frown, but he's not affected too much. So, Kasuga, whenever Deku gets home, Kasuga asks him about his quirk. He says it's an edit quirk. Now, because of Deku's been buffing her quirk, she'd always have bandage over her hands because every time she used the quirk, she'd bruise her hands and break them. So as he said, it's an edit quirk. She lights up and asks him if he can edit her quirk and make it a little bit weaker so it doesn't hurt her every time. He says that, Kasuka, I don't think that's a good idea considering I don't have any mastery over this quirk yet. She says, oh, okay, now, during school, people would ask Deku to show his quirk off, but he would always tell him it's an edit quirk, but he's not allowed to use it because it's too strong and it can easily injure and hurt people, as well as make them quirkless. As none of them believe him, so everyone's thinking he's quirkless. Now, later along the line, even Kasuka started to believe this. So during middle school, Kasuka would start to bully Deku even more. Well, not even more, but start to bully him a lot more. By bullying him, I mean like physical torture. And she would always tell Deku to use his quirk and things like that. But whenever she would bully Deku, she never used her quirk because of one reason and one reason only. Every time she'd do that, she'd break her hands and she could potentially kill someone because of Deku's editing. But that's beyond the point. So, whenever Deku is 10 years old, he and Bakugo gets in a fight. Well, he and Kasuka gets in a fight. And this fight is whether or not Kasuka should be bullying other people and things like that, how it wasn't canon. And Kasuka not thinking straight because she's angry, throws an explosion which hits Deku in the face. Now this being a 100% explosion, now this blowing parts of this is splitting Deku's face. So he has a scar. Now this split was from his chin all the way to the left side of his face. So it went from the right side all the way to the left, crossed his nose and over his left eye. As he hit the ground, knocked out and bleeding, gushing blood, as Kasuka is freaking out and terrified of what she just did. So, ambulance came, they took Deku, and Deku's in the hospital now, as Kasuka always comes to visit, and he's been hospitalized for a year straight now without waking up. He's in a comatose state. Now, in his head, he's been thinking, well, not thinking, but dreaming about his quirk and how it could work and things like that. Now, while he was doing this, he, of course, changing his quirk from him being just an editing quirk to a muscle mass, body enhancing type quirk. So basically, Deku has almost every quirk he can want because of his editing quirk. It's just an add-on I'm throwing in there. Now, as we move over to Kasuka's point of view, as for 365 days straight, she's been visiting Izuku. Now, of course, she's having immense amounts of guilt and is really hoping that Deku would wake up. But he hasn't woken up for an entire year. So she continues to visit him for another 2 months. And then she starts to notice some changes. It looks like his body has been gaining more muscle. Not only that, it seems like his quirk's different. Well, not his quirk, but his body structure. He's grown taller. So, Deku, whenever Kasuka goes to leave, Deku's arm moves, which she turns around immediately grabbing it. And just saying, Izuku, are you awake now? No response, so she kind of like drops her hopes a bit. And then his hand grabs hers, but it's tighter in a way. But he's not awake. He's doing all this by instinct. Now Kasuka blushes a bit. Just a bit, you know. They're still children. I wouldn't really call them children, but they're still kids. So they don't really know much about love. But now, this happened at the a year and 2 months mark. Another month go by, and he's been doing more without opening his eyes. It's almost as if he can see everything, move everything, but he's not awake. Now, this is a month and a half mark, a year and a half mark. He starts to begin like moving and shuffling around. Not getting out of the bed, but moving and shuffling around. And then we get to the 2-year mark. So they're 12 right now. And Deku finally opens his eyes. And Kasuka's not there. But as he opened his eyes, she walked in. She tackles him. Not really tackles, but jumps on him. As he just questions, Kasuka, what are you doing? And where am I? She tells him that, we're in the hospital. And you've been in a coma for 2 years. And Deku just yells, 2 years? You're joking, right? And he's like in utter shock, because to him, that didn't even feel like a month, not even a day. All it felt like was a couple of seconds. So he's confused, like he don't know how to process this. And as a day goes by, and as the doctors are astounded that he actually woke up. And not only that, as Deku goes into the mirror and looks at his body structure, he sees that he's taller, he has a lot more muscle, and not only that, he has a massive scar from his right cheek to his left eye. Now Kasuka comes into his room as he walks out the bathroom, and he points to his face and says, "Hey Kasuka, how'd I get this scar?" And she just looks down with a saddened expression. And she says, "Oh, I kind of did that." And he says, "What do you mean you kind of did that?" "Well, see, I threw an explosion at you, and wasn't thinking straight, and it was a full blast explosion, which broke my hand." And she laughs about that. "But then I didn't realize that I put too much power into it, and I put you in a coma for 2 years." Give me a minute, sorry about the pause. Yeah, so as I was saying, she's feeling a lot of guilt for it. Not only that, she's had nightmares about doing it, and him not ever waking up, and things like that, thinking that she severely injured her best friend. Well, the best friend she thought at the time, because Izuku viewed her as a friend, not a best friend, because of the bullying. But seeing her saddened expression really hurt him in a way, because he's never seen Kasuka that sad before. So he just walks up and hugs her. She just widens her eyes as he just pats her on the back, saying that it's not your fault, Kasuka. You just didn't think straight. She hugs him. Now, they go back to school like the next week. As everyone's looking at Deku, so he's changed a lot. Now, some girls are giving him like the seductive eyes, as Kasuka is angered by these. But knowing Izuku, she knows that he won't do anything with them. So she's not really worried about it, but she still gets pissed seeing that. Because she does have a crush on Izuku because of his determination and his willpower. Now, this is when some of Bakugo Kasuka's henchmen try to mess with Deku. And Deku editing the quirk, making it where they have to do a certain thing to use their quirk. And as Deku doesn't even know what this certain thing is. So they try to use their quirk and it doesn't work. As they're confused, as Kasuga looks at Deku and she's confused. As he says, "Oh, my bad, I didn't mean to do that to your quirk. I just accidentally edited it, you know?" As they're in shock, and they ask, what'd you do? What'd you edit it with? What? As they're like scared because they just kind of became quirkless. But he says, "Oh, I just made it where you have to do a certain thing to get your quirk to activate. And sorry, but I don't know what that thing is." As everyone in the classroom is in shock, including Kasuka. Deku's not, because he knew that he had the quirk, but no one believed him. So he re-edits the quirk and gives them their quirk back, which he never took, but he just puts it back to how it was. And so later on that day, nobody messed with Izuku, but Kasuga was always around him. Her always being around him gave him comfort in a way, and also gave her forgot the word, closure. And it also gave her closure, knowing that Izuku is fine. Now, pretty sure they're 12 right now. I think that, right? Yeah, so it's 2 years go by. As Izuku's been working on his quirk and is immensely stronger now. And he's been tampering with it, see if he can change it around a bit. And he has. He's noticed that he can give himself certain abilities. Like, he can change things around him. If he wanted to, he can literally use fire. But he just has to understand what fire is. And so, this is whenever he comes over to Kasuga's house. And he says, "Hey, Kasuga." She says, "Yes, Izuku." He says, "You remember how you asked me like a long time ago to edit your quirk? But I said I couldn't." She says, "No." He says, "You did, but we were only 4, you know?" So, he says, "Well, I'm here to edit your quirk and actually make it the way you want it." She says, "Really? I don't have to break my hands anymore?" He says, "Nah, no you don't." And as he edits her quirk and he makes it weaker. Now, this not being as weak as Canon, this being as strong as, like, the first villain attack, which is at the USJ. That's strong. Even though he didn't really do much, but still. So, she hugs him in excitement, and uses her quirk, saying she doesn't have to break her hands anymore. The tears were down her face, and Misugi comes out and says, "What's going on here in the tiny explosion?" And this is when Kasuga says, Mom, Izuku edited my quirk so I don't have to break my bones anymore." As Misugi says, "Thank you so much, Izuku. It really helped out a lot." He says, "It's no problem." Now, this being whenever they were 14, a week before the last day of school. Now, of course, Deku's going, well, not that way. As the teacher walks in, she throws up papers saying, "Well, I'm pretty sure everyone here wants to be a hero, so I don't even see why I have to pass these out." And he says, "Well, let's read off who wants to go places." As he starts to listen everybody off, he gets to Kasuga and he says, "Well, Kasuga, you want to go to UA?" And she says, "Yeah, of course I do. Don't let me in with any of these B-lister heroes." And so then he says, "Well, Izuku wants to go to UA too." And she says, "That's fine. He's not a B-listed hero." As everyone looks over at her, and some girls look at her, and she's like embarrassed a bit, but doesn't really give a damn. Now, Kasuga's arrogant to everyone but Deku. Like, if Deku's not around, she's a total bitch at times. But if he's around, she's nice as fuck. So, as Deku is walking home with Kasuga, because why not? As they go underneath a little bridge. As they get underneath it, some type of sludge attacks them. Now, Izuku, not thinking straight, accidentally edits the entire gene quirk itself of the villain, making this villain quirkless. As this sludge takes human form and isn't able to change back. Now, Izuku doesn't know what happened to the villain as he begins to grab Kasuga by the hand and run away. They scurry off, and then All Might gets there seeing the villain and not doing anything because it just looks like a regular person. There's no villain there at all. He just sees a normal everyday civilian. So, as they get away and they're literally panting, well, Deku's not, but Kasuga is. And she says, "Izuku, you can let go now." As he lets go of her hand and says, "Sorry, Kasuga." He says, well, I'm gonna go home now. They both laugh as they take their ways home, as they part ways. Izuku getting home, going to bed, as well as Kasuga. But before Izuku went to bed, he was thinking, he says, what happened to that villain's quirk? It looked like it was erased. He starts thinking, and he remembers that he can edit quirks. Does that mean he can edit quirk genes as well? So he doesn't feel like testing this out until needed. But then we start the 10 months training. As Izuku's training just consists of him editing his own quirk and hanging out with Kasuga. Now, Izuku made a transformation quirk, something to give him even more power. So, Deku Deku's just walking back home. He decides to see if he can fly with editing his body in a way. Not his body, but his quirk to change. Still have the quirk editing style. Not style, but quirk editing properties, but also have the properties of flight. So he does so, and he's amazed that he can actually fly now. So he's flying around at Degama Beach, and this is when All Might comes by and just sees him flying, and is intrigued. And then whenever he lands, he sees that Izuku's punching with the immense strength, and a lot of other things as well, as now using heat vision, all these and that, as All Might is confused as he thinks he's working for All For One, so he goes up and he asks him, young man, All Might, yes? What? She says, do you know who All For One is? He says, All For One? I don't think I've ever heard of him. No, why? He says, because, never mind. What's your quirk? And Zaki says, it's an editing quirk. He says, editing quirk? Never heard of one of those. He says, I know, apparently I'm the first. So, Deku then asks All Might about his quirk, and All Might actually going into detail about what One For All is. Now, Deku asking if he can edit All Might's quirk. And All Might says, what would you edit about it? He says, oh, the physical strain of your muscles. And I'd also give you some type of regeneration to fix your body. He says, fix my body? He says, yeah, I know about your injury. So, All Might says, sure, as All Might's body begins to heal slowly, but surely. And not only that, he tries to use One For All 100%, and realizes that there's absolutely no strain on his body. And he's able to maintain his muscle form. He thanks Izuku a lot. He offers Izuku a quirk. And Izuku says he doesn't want it. So Izuku, turning down One For All, now we're going to move on to the UA entrance exam. But before I start that, I just want to let you guys know that I stayed up really late last night with Phoenix Hokage, because we were just vibing, alright? We were just vibing. But we're not going to get into that. So, we look over at Izuku as he's walking into UA, as he sees a blonde-haired girl Trip, as he uses a edited telekinesis. Now, all in all, Deku always has about 25 quirks. I'm not going to list them all, because I will forget, and I don't feel like writing them down. So he has a total of 25 quirks that I will make up along the way. As he uses a telekinesis quirk to catch this blonde-haired girl, as this blonde-haired girl looks over at him, and she says, oh, Izuku, how you been? Because she hasn't seen him, like, at all those entire 10 months. Well, she has, but wasn't really able to talk to him. He says, I've been good, Kasuga. You? She sees how buff he is now and is like blushed a bit because she didn't expect that. Now, as quite a few girls are actually looking at him now, Kasuga just gives him a slight glare. He says, oh, you ready to go? She says, yeah. Now, they get placed in the same training grounds. Now, before they even walk into the building, Deku secretly edits Kasuga's quirk. Now, what he did to it was he gave her a very, very, very strong regeneration, and also made her quirk stronger for the test. And she feels like a slight pinch in her hand as she just like itches it. Just keeps going on about her day. So, they get put in the same training grounds as they are taking the test. Now, Izuku, having an editing quirk, has very high intelligence, about the same level as Principal Nezu. So he aces the test in the first 30 seconds of getting it, as well as correcting everything Nezu did. As everyone looks at him as he just stands up and walks over, Kasuga's like, damn show off. She smirks a bit. So he's just waiting inside the training ground. Is already changed and he's out there. Deku's hero costume is different from canon. It's very, very different. Let's just put it that way. It's practically like Kirishima's, but it's hard to describe it. He practically has Blade's outfit, but without the swords, you know? So, they get ready for the exam as Kasuga starts walking up to Deku as Ida, well, a blue-haired boy, stands in front of her and says, hey, I will not let you disturb that student. You're probably just going to sabotage him and lower his chances of passing. And she just smacks Ida in the face like a full-on smack. Now, this sent Ida quite a few meters back. Not a lot, but quite a few. It's catching him off guard. As Eden, this one's different. Fairly different. If you disrespect him, he's gonna stomp your shit out. Let's just say that. He's gonna mink your shit. So, as he's just pulling up his pants leg, as Deku's seeing it, he's like, the fuck is he doing? As he sees him get ready and start stretching, he's like, yo, he's joking, right? As he sees him dart forward, and as soon as Ida's about to make contact with Kasuga's face, he is met with a fist to the side of his. Now Deku not holding back, breaking all of Ida's shit. Broke from the left side all the way to the right, shattered it all. So yeah, Ida's not looking too good right now. She's knocked out instantly. Recovery girl comes in as they delay the test just because of this. Because Ida's family are rich and they support UA, so they delay the thing. Bribery. So because of this delay, Izuku was just talking to Kasuga the whole time. They get ready to start it again, and we look over towards President Mike, who is now talking about the exam he mentions things about the robots, the 1-pointer, 2-pointer, 3-pointer, as this is when the same blue-haired boy stands up and says, President Mike, where is this 0-pointer? Such a big robot should not be introduced. If this is a mess up on UA's part, I'm greatly ashamed. As Deku just looks at him and says, yo, bro, shut the fuck up. as Ida just says, "Such disrespect. I'll have you know I'm part of the Ida family." And Deku says, "And I'll have you know I don't give a fuck." So, sit the fuck down and let him continue. As Ida just shuts up and sits down, as soon as President Mike started to talk, he went straight into what the 0-pointer was. Now this making Ida look very stupid, so he's like kind of pissed. Now we move on to the start of the robots. So President Mike's counting down. Deku just breaks through the door. Like, completely through the door. Now this not being like a thin door, this being like 4 feet of steel. 4-foot-inch steel, dude. Like nothing but hard, cold steel. As he just punches his way through it with one punch. Now this already catching the eye of all of the teachers. As they see one boy punch through a 4-foot steel-inch door. And Deku didn't like hit it multiple times. He hit it one time and just blew the door through. Now, everyone's like, "Oh, that's cheating, this, that, and that." And as Kasuga just takes off. Her using her explosions, hurting her hands a bit, but then she feels that she knows that they're hurting, but she doesn't feel it. She sets off her strongest explosion and looks at her hand as it's broken. She sees it just regenerate. She looks up and says, "Deku, you bastard." Like that, and he says, and Deku hearing this says, "What's wrong? You don't like your new power?" She says, "Oh, swear to God." She just goes on and starts destroying robots. Zuko does the same thing. Izuku destroying several robots instantly with lightning. Yup, I'm giving him lightning, like actual lightning bolts. Boy looking like Zeus right now. So, Izuku, now having the test over and done with, is changing. Now, he's already changed as he's walking out. Well, he hasn't fully changed. He's walking out with, like, his shirt on his chest, showing his abs. That's about it. As he walks out, every girl just stares at him intensely. And this is when, of course, your favorite neighborhood Mina comes around and tries to hit on Deku. And Kasuga shut her down instantly. Because Kasuga goes behind Deku without him knowing. So as Mina walked up and tried flirting, she got shut down instantly. Deku's like, "Kasuga, what's wrong?" She says, "Oh, nothing. Nothing at all." Now, during these 2 weeks, they go hang out at the park and do things like that. Now, Kasuga had taken this as a date. Deku's taking this as, like, some type of field trip. Not some type of field trip, but like a hangout. Hangout with amongst friends. See, he doesn't know that Kasuga likes him because she doesn't show it at all. She treats him normally. Normally. I don't know if I should make this a one-shot or not. Nah, I'll make it an hour. I'm not gonna make it a one-shot because I really like this. I like the whole editing quirk idea. I don't feel like making this a whole one-shot. So, oh man. Sorry, guys, I'm just thinking about the what if Deku was the only man with a quirk thing. But, that's enough of that. So, now we move on to the first day of school. Because it goes as canon. Not really, but Izuku got the #1 spot. The whole 0-pointer didn't happen because Deku literally hit it with a lightning bolt as soon as it stepped out. So we look over at Class 1A. Deku walks in and everyone's looking at him and says, "Oh, that's the boy who threw lightning bolts and flew around. Used telekinesis and muscle strength and everything like that." They're just naming out a lot of different things Deku did. Of course, it's sort of embarrassing Deku, not that much though. So this is whenever Shoto Aizawa says, "Alright, class. Apparently, I'm decided to do the quick assessment test, my bad." And of course Ochako is saying, "But what about what? Orientation? Fuck orientation." And so Ochako just shuts up. And they get dressed inside the locker rooms and go outside. Deku being the first and also having this gym uniform extremely tight on him. Now, like, it's not tight enough where you can see everything, but you can see every outline of his muscle on his chest and his abs. So he's just sitting there. He's not embarrassed by it, but Kasuga and all the girls are. So Kasuga goes up to Deku and says, "Hey, Izuku, do you think you can like cover up a bit more?" He says, "What are you talking about, Kasuga?" He says, "Well, you're kind of showing all of you." She's like blushing bright beet red. She's like, "I can try." She goes back to the locker room. He grabs a shirt and he puts it on. Now all the girls are pissed at Kasuga because their eye candy just disappeared. Not disappeared, but left. So they now are incredibly angry. As Mina tries her bullshit with Kasuga, like, "Oh, why'd you do that? He's really hot." And she says, "Yeah, and I like him, therefore you're not having him." And gets like an angry ass expression. Now, Mina being scared says, we can share. She says, "Nah, we ain't sharing." Now, for hilarity, I'm gonna say there is an extra girl in Class 1A. And one less boy. Well, there's 2 extra girls and 2 less boys. Of course, this extra girl being Shota, my bad, Todoroki. Yes, a female Shoto Todoroki. You'll love to see it. And she doesn't even give a damn about what's going on right now because she's her cold self because of her dad. As they go for the exams. They start the exams as Aizawa says, throws the ball at Deku and says, "Well, kid, you got the number 1 spot on the exams." Kasuga pissed about this, but she knew it was gonna happen. As Aizawa says, "Throw this with all your might, and don't hold back like you did in the exam." And everyone's confused. Even Kasuga says, "Holding back?" He says, and as Izuki says, "I guess you caught on, Eraserhead." And Aizawa says, "Yeah, I did, sadly." And he says, "Okay, fine." As Izuku's body changes as he's powering up, his hair's not changing colors like a sand. More or less, his body is. It's not changing colors, but his muscles changing. His physical properties are changing. He's getting these darkened marks all over his body. And then he grabs the ball and he throws it. And this causing such a strong boom, it causes a earthquake. Now Aizawa looks at the thing and it says 3 light years. I'll say because it hit a planet somewhere off in space instantly and stuck there. Don't ask me how, plot's sake. Now, I did have 2 ship ideas in this one. three total, three women that I was gonna put in here. But one's gonna be really hard to put in. And I also gotta start another series. And I'm fitting me and Phoenix Hokage are about to do a collab here soon. Like real soon. And pretty sure it's an original idea. But we're not gonna get into that right yet, you know? So, as Izuku throws this ball, and everyone around, like, hit the ground really fast, even Aizawa, because they couldn't stand the pressure and air pressure coming from him. As he de-transforms from this mode, they're confused for a second. Now, this is whenever they go on with the exams. Deku getting first in everything, other than the ball throw, considering the fact that Chaka practically cheated with her quirk. Can't tell me otherwise. So, we move over to the heroes versus villains. Nah, I'm not going to do that right yet. I'm going to go to some more details about the Kasuga, Deku, and Todoroki relationship. Now, as Deku noticed that Deku noticed that Shota, or that Todoroki never used her fire. Not only that, she's always distant. So he asks her what happened and what's her problem. She just shoves him off. He says, "Do you hate fire or something?" She says, "Yes, I fucking hate it. If I could get rid of it, I would." And this is when Deku chimes in. He says, "I could get rid of it for you." She stops and says, "How could you do that?" So he says, "Believe it or not, my quirk is an edit quirk, and that's about it." She's shocked to hear that it's an edit quirk, considering all the powers he has. So, she says, you really can?" She says, "Of course." She says, can you try?" So he taps her on the shoulder, and he's editing her quirk. And as he's doing this, her red hair changed into a solid white. And she tries to use her fire side, but realizes it's not there anymore. She can't use it. And so she hugs Izuku, yelling, "Thank you, thank you, thank you." As Izuku's saying it wasn't that big of a deal. She's just shaking him. Now, Endeavor's reaction is, whenever after this all happened, as Shota got home, as she walks through the door, Endeavor's like, "Shota, you finally back?" As he looks at her, he doesn't see the red side anymore at all. As he asks Shota, "What happened to your fire side?" She says, "I had some kid get rid of it for me." And Endeavor's like, "What? How'd he get rid of it?" She said, "He edited it away." And Endeavor's pissed. Now, because he edited the quirk itself away, he also buffed the ice quirk, where it doesn't affect the user. Now, of course, I'm making everyone affiliated with Deku overpowered. Because why not? Now, the third person I was gonna ship for Izuku was Urza. But I don't think I haven't thought of a good way to introduce her yet. So I'll have to think of that some other time. But other than that, Endeavor's reaction was priceless to Shota. As she comes into the next day of school, she talks to Izuku, saying, "Oh, I'm so grateful to you, my old man's." The reaction was priceless. And she's just laughing. Izuku laughs with her. Kasuga walks in, she sees it, she's like, She's mad, but not mad. Now, Shota begins to hang out with the trio. Of course, this trio being Kasuka and Deku, including herself. That's the trio. Now, these are the top 3 students in Class 1A. Deku being number 1, Kasuka being number 2, and Todoroki being number 3, my bad. I'm literally losing my voice in the middle of this video. I hate to see it. Yeah, I was thinking about making this video a one-shot, but nah. Don't feel like doing that. I really like it. I want to make a part 2 of it, you know? So, Kasuka and Todoroki have grown quite close. And they do their girl talk from time to time. Talking about who they like. And Kasuka would never really truly answer. She always says she likes someone, but never say who it was. Neither would Todoroki. And then they finally decide to play Truth or Dare with Izuku Midoriya, your one and only. Oh, brother. Like, I'm not even, like, mad about this series. It's just that the next series I have to do, which is What If Deku Was the Only Man with a Quirk? A lot of R-rated scenes coming up. Stay tuned. My bad. So, as they decided to play Truth or Dare with Deku, but they asked him in the middle of class, as he accepted, obviously. As they go over to Bakugo, the Kasuka residence, aka the Bakugo residence, as they start to play. Now, Kasuka asks Deku Truth or Dare. Deku saying dare. She dares Kasuka, not Kasuka, but Deku to call his mom and say that he's in prison. He does so, and she's pissed. Inko is mad as fuck. Now, Deku says, Todoroki, Truth or Dare? She says, dare. I dare you to call your dad and tell him you... Honestly, let's just forget all these little fucking other side stories. This is when Todoroki just says, hey, Kasuka, Truth or Dare? Kasuka's saying true. She says, is it true you like Midoriya? Midoriya keens in on this as Kasuka's like, yes. She hides her face and Izuku just laughs. And this is when Kasuka says, Truth or Dare, Todoroki? Todoroki says, dare. I dare you to kiss who you like tomorrow or today. Matter of fact, yeah, do it tonight. As Todoroki walks over to Midoriya and kisses him. Kasuka's eyes widen at this. And without her actually thinking, she quickly ran over and kissed Izuku afterwards. Now, Izuku's mind is racing. He's like confused beyond compare. But I'm going to be ending it off right now because my voice is starting to die, and whenever my voice comes back, I will return for part 2 of What If Deku Was the Only Man with a Quirk. Thank you guys for letting me hit 500, and I'll see you later today.